OJ been dead not even 24 hours. And y'all are already showing y'all asses. Alright, you white motherfuckers, all eyes on me. This is the I Refuse podcast. It's Mr. Fox, the I Refuse podcast. Oh, made it this close, almost to the weekend, and I felt inspired with all that's happened in the last 24 hours to come at y'all with another episode this week on the YouTube channel to go over this week's events. We'll start with the most recent thing that has occurred. So, this morning news broke that one Orenthal J. Simpson, or OJ, has passed away at the age of 76 after a battle with cancer. One of his children, by way of his Twitter account, shared the news that he passed away yesterday. And with that, it's renewed the discussion around that infamous evening. So, for me, Mr. Fox, I was in middle school. I think I was in middle school when the trial hit the airwaves. Like, this is back when they were loud on cameras in the courtroom. Too young to really follow it. I do remember like it was yesterday, the day they announced the verdict, and how everybody across the nation, black, white, whatever race, was glued to the TV after watching intermittently this trial play out. I don't even know how long the trial lasted. I think it took about 2 years, I think, from the night it happened to the verdict. So today, people were like, let's not focus on him. Let's focus on Ron and Nicole Brown. A lot of folks were like, that man did it. The trail from the house to the car to his driveway, yada, yada, yada. Speaking as somebody who also was not there, and whose retrospection is a little bit different. Still a firm believer that two things can be true, but also aware of the biases from folks outside the way, reacting to the verdict and stuff. It was wild to me that people that look like me were cheering for the verdict. 2, that this moment in history essentially changed a lot of people's perceptions of OJ, regardless of race. And 3, even people that cheered have since kind of looked at him with a side eye, like, you kind of moving really, really weird out here. And this was around the time that the book, he said he was going to do a book called If I Did It. And mind you, he still had that thing over his head, what was that? I think it was a wrongful death thing, allegedly. Oh, that he had to like, it was like a multi-million-dollar thing that was filed by Ron Goldman's family. I was like, no matter what you do, there's no way that you're going to be able to pay that back. Like, if you've gone through a trial, if you've been put on trial, and on top of that, the trial of the century, right? And you've been found not guilty. And I've said on the podcast before, there have been a lot of people that have actually done stuff, put on trial, and found not guilty. Not being guilty is not a reflection of whether or not you did it. Not guilty is more so a reflection of, was the other side in the courtroom able to prove beyond a shadow of doubt that you did it? The state wasn't able to do that, so you essentially get off. You're found not guilty, you're acquitted, there's a mistrial or something. I've said that before. So my thing is this: if I was on trial, if I was put on trial and found not guilty of something, the last thing I would want to do is like be caught out in public, B, like be still in front of the camera. And understand, like, the media couldn't help but like show this guy. But I wouldn't like plug stuff. I wouldn't say, I'm writing a book about the infamous night, because you're making people relive that stuff. So I think that was a large part of what turned people off. Not so much that, you went from having a black wife to a white wife and doing, all this kind of stuff. There's still people out here to this day that are like, that'll side-eye a black guy that's with white people. I'm like, that's so stupid. But that's what tripped me out. Now, if you ask me, my opinion about that infamous night, I will say I personally do not know. But I will say that when I was in community college about 10 years ago, I had this professor. And I think this was right around the time that OJ had said that he was going to release the book or whatever. I went to the classroom one night. Somehow the conversation came up about OJ. And the professor, went into this thing called, he was like, it was actually this. Now, this isn't my opinion. I'm just relaying it to y'all. Well, my opinion is that, that son of his was obsessed with Nicole and went to a wine rage and did all that stuff to her and Ron, and I was like, okay. Most of my life, my only reference to OJ to that point it was like, oh, this is a guy I've seen in Roots. I kind of remember him in the Hertz commercial, but I'm prominently remember him in the Leslie Nielsen movies, one of the Naked Guns. And then, bam, this happened, right? Like I said, I was too young to really follow the trial. I do remember people's reaction to the verdict. So it's like, it ultimately came down to the glove. Glove didn't fit. That's aside from the private recordings of Mark Furman, where he allegedly went to all this epithet stuff. That's aside from, I mean, the difference in approach in the trial. You know, his legal team, Marsha Cross and her people. This is aside from, oh, it ultimately came down to, you know, he had the money to buy the best legal team in town, and they were able to do. I mean, I will say I've never seen a trial before where a person has. He had what, like 5 lawyers? He had, I think, 5 or 6. And as I got older, I think I saw a little bit more of the trial. But as somebody that's on the outside, along with everybody else, I do remember that, like, white people were pissed. We're pissed. To see such a visceral, passionate reaction, and the best you can do to support this reaction you have is that phone call that she made. And I was just like, and mind you, this is the early 90s. We weren't that removed from stop and frisk. We weren't that removed from, that was right around the LA riots. We weren't that far removed from police brutality. We weren't that far removed. Just all these numerous examples that remind us that we're not equal to them over there. And there's something to be said when a person has a reaction as they did based off a little information. Now, mind you, this was like a former athlete from a sport that people just smash beer cans on their foreheads over, bet numerous amounts of cash. They go crazy about it, all kinds of stuff. And loved him in the Hertz commercial, loved him in the Naked Gun 33 and the Third movies. You know, the man running in the Hertz commercial, loved him in Roots. Like, all this other stuff. And it's like, one 911 call. Something eventually happens. And this is where people throw themselves off the cliff. And it was just like, ugh. When I saw the American Crime Story, The People versus O.J. Simpson, which is really good, Courtney B. Vance did the damn thing in that. Cuba Gooding was surprisingly good. I already talked about Cuba in a different thing. But Courtney B. Vance did the damn thing. John Travolta was really good. It was a really good series, and it at that point I got a little bit more insight. Then there was like a documentary or a special that covered the actual trial to some degree. They even had footage of the prosecution heading into the courtroom on verdict day. And all the never before seen stuff that wasn't on the news back in the day. And they, of course, replayed the entire reaction across the nation to the verdict. And I was just like, those white people were so upset. And, you know, of course, one, Oprah Jean Winfrey had an episode of her talk show in studio where they watched the verdict live. And ooh, that was a charged episode. Part of what will, I think, bring us together is if we recognize how the other party sees the world. And it's more so them at least unpacking their privilege and their bias, you know, primarily that the black man and the black woman is not a monolith. And before you jump off the cliff and say some pretty biased stuff with some little information, first ask yourself, do you see us as a color or a human being that makes mistakes? Yes, we can get angry. Yes, we can be upset. But also other things could play a role. Other things, there could be other theories and alternatives. It could very well still also be true that this man covered for his son. A lot of things can be true. I'm not saying that's what he did. I'm reading the comments on the Bird app about what y'all saying. Just, I will say it's a shame though. Like, a lot of us didn't even know that old boy was dealing with that later in life. I will not be one of the ones to jump on the bandwagon of, you know, he'll see Nicole and she'll, you know, drag him down to hell, and I'm not even going to get on definitely not going to get on the bandwagon of what Caitlyn Jenner has already started when she said, good riddance. And I'm like, not you. Not you. You already have a very stained relationship with our community. Some of y'all were getting on Caitlyn in the comments. One comment really laid me flat. One of y'all said, Caitlyn, you just mad because O.J. Simpson is Chloe's real daddy. You think, just when you think we're getting close to being a proper country, y'all say some shit that just stirs up stuff I thought we got past years ago. You will probably never get the truth. You will probably never get confirmation from the Kardashians. But I will say, with Khloe's old face, the resemblance is kind of uncanny. The resemblance is kind of uncanny. And that's my opinion. Allegedly. But wow, man, that's a trip. What a ride that was. What a ride. I didn't trip on the trial. You know, OJ's football career was long before me. But I did watch Roots recently in its entirety, and I was like, damn, that fool can run. And it was like a brief cameo where he was outrunning Kunta Kinte in the first episode, I think. I was like, damn, he really is fast. And I saw like Naked Gun like once or twice when I was in grade school. But I still stand by my conscious choice to not join the bandwagon. Where I wish after death that anybody just goes to the hottest place on earth, hotter than the equator, hotter than Florida, hotter than South America, because of what you think they did. Like I said, I, like everybody else that was on the outside looking in, we don't do that over here, regardless of what you believe, regardless of how you live your life. Just not going to do it. At the end of the day, he was still the father to kids, still a brother and cousin to family. And still went through hell, so here on earth. And you got to think about it, like the optics of it, when it's like white people tweeting that kind of stuff, it makes you wonder, like, you didn't even know this guy. And the same media y'all claim is demonstrative and is harmful to society is the same media that was running him through the mud. Same way they ran MJ through the mud. But, you know, a lot of people can get real selective, which is a reflection of privilege and popularity and nepotism and being so cool for too cool for school. OJ, man, dead from cancer at 76. What a month this has been. And it's only middle of April. Middle April. Week in review, Mixed Nuts 14. Welcome. Moving on. You know, we're on the Bird app at I Refuse Podcast. Follow, subscribe, as well as here on the YouTube channel. couple of, I guess, rap beefs. You know, Mr. Fox is a lifelong rap aficionado. Grew up on 90s rap, 80s rap. I don't know what the hell this is these days. Rap beef is so corny. JT and Carisha back and forth. Y'all were locked in on that. I took a brief peek at the tweets. Once I got to the tweet where one member asked the other of the City Girls, which songs am I talking about you on? And the other member named them. I was like, oh, I see. Y'all are stunting on Twitter for streams. And don't think this is a strong enough distraction away from what we talked about on the podcast the last 2 episodes. Available wherever you get your podcast, Spotify and Apple, the RFU's podcast. Don't think this is going to be strong enough to distract us from that. Carisha, you think you're slick? No. This Kendrick, J. Cole, Drake, Future situation, and, you know, K-Dot ate all 3 of y'all up. J. Cole, you apologizing on stage to Kendrick. That's such a light-skinned move. There's a reason there's a reason that Kendrick is in my top 20 of all time out of 50. J. Cole kind of lost me after Forest Hills. Drake kind of lost me after Nothing Was the Same. A lot of y'all really hate on To Pimp a Butterfly, but that's actually one of my favorite Kendrick albums. But I get why he had to do Damn the way that he did, because he probably realized that he was alienating a lot of y'all with the range and the taste from To Pimp a Butterfly. Those of us that grew up on Guru's Jazzmatazz albums, I'm here for it. But it is what it is. Kendrick ate them up on the Future Metro Boomin song. He's getting a lot of rave reviews about his tour, his worldwide Steppers. Missed him around the big Steppers tour. Sorry. Let's see. What else? So apparently, the director of food policy at the Consumer Reports urged USDA to remove Lunchables from the National School Lunch Program. Consumer Report tests, and this came out on April the 9th, find Lunchables and similar lunch kits contain relatively high levels of lead, cadmium, sodium, all but one contain harmful phthalates. Consumer Reports, this side of Washington, D.C., called on the Department of Agriculture to remove Lunchable food kits from the National School Lunch Program. They recently compared the nutritional profiles of 2 Lunchable kits served in schools and found that they have even higher levels of sodium than the kits consumers can buy in the store. They also tested 12 store-bought versions of Lunchables and similar kits and found several contained relatively high levels of lead and cadmium, CADMIUM. All but one also tested positive for phthalates, chemicals found in plastics that have been linked to reproductive problems, diabetes, and certain cancers. Now, somebody that grew up on welfare and free lunch, and at one point was making less than $30,000 a year in his 20s. Lunchables was that girl. When I shared this story on Facebook yesterday, a lot of people weren't surprised. A lot of like black parents weren't surprised, given that they say that Lunchables, as well as other things, are processed foods. At the end of the day, allegedly, you don't know what they're putting into those things, and you don't know in what, how much contact they make with other things in their environment. And I was just like, oof. I can't imagine. Like, Lunchables has been around a long, long time, and you can't, like, this is aside from like the quality of like overall school lunches anyway, right? Which in my history, not the best day when they have, you know, the cheesesteak and then you eat it and it has no flavor to it. But this is the best that you can do. So for Consumer Reports to one day wake up and be like, you know, we're just going to start testing the Lunchable kits in the schools. Something tells me that they've been investigating for a while and probably doing a lot of medical and scientific research. Because think about it. You put a lot of stuff in your mouth and in your stomach, and they've been saying for a long time, processed foods, probably not a good idea. But also, in addition to the levels of this stuff that they found in some of the Lunchable kits, less than 5. A lot of that stuff, huge amounts of sodium. And it's like, when you get to be my age, you're like, damn, there's no getting around like sodium. Because when you go to the store, question for the audience, when you go to the store, do you actually read the back? Whether it's food or beverage, canned or frozen, dairy, pizza, ice cream, seafood, beef, meat. Do you read the back? Like, there's really no way to get around like sodium. I've been doing that for the past couple of years, and it's like some of my favorite shit has the most sodium in it. And I don't know about y'all, but I love my like spicy chicken. A lot of sodium. And those Gordon Fisherman things, especially the breaded shit, a lot of sodium. And a lot of y'all probably think, well, damn, that's like putting 2 things of Morton salt right into your damn mouth. And then I think about it, it's like, you're not even safe with Lunchables. Something as simple and ready to go as a Lunchable that are in the schools, that are on market shelves, not even safe. Not even safe. Sodium levels in the store-bought lunch and snack kits Consumer Reports tested range from 460 to 740 milligrams per serving, It's nearly a quarter to half of a child's daily recommended limit for sodium. They found that the sodium levels of the Lunchables made for schools, which had a larger portion of meat, are higher than in the store-bought versions. School version of the turkey and cheddar Lunchable for schools contain 930 milligrams of sodium compared to 740 milligrams in the store-bought version. Similarly, the Lunchable pizza kit for schools has 700 milligrams of sodium compared to 510 milligrams in the store version. Eating foods with too much sodium can lead to high blood pressure. Well, I just essentially said that. When you actually think about it, and you think about like all the issues and the headaches and stuff people be getting, it's like damn, you just can't get away. I was talking to Mr. Great the other day about Hot Pockets. Again, back when I was in my 20s, making less than $30,000, working in the mailroom somewhere. I would pick up like Hot Pockets, 3 boxes, here and there. Man, them lean ones, just as bad as the regular ones. I thought, oh, it's got chicken and cheese and broccoli in it, I should be good. Found myself eating them regularly, like almost every day. I had really bad headaches. Why? It wasn't because of the stress of the job. I wasn't stressed at that. It was fucking paperwork and shuffling and moving this shit around. Wasn't the environment. Stayed to myself. Wasn't the people. They was cool for the most part. It was all that sodium in them damn Hot Pockets. I'm here to testify. Here to testify for you today. Fucking Hot Pockets. Before I get up out of here, I'm going to talk about something that's kind of been bothering me out of Garfield Park, Chicago. So, they recently, the Department of, what does it say? The Department of Chicago's Civilian Office of Police Accountability on April the 9th released several body cam videos of plainclothes officers stopping and surrounding the car of Dexter Reed, which ultimately resulted in close to 100 shots being fired in under 60 seconds at Dexter Reed. First video, officer in a hooded jacket, baseball cap, tactical vest with badge approaches the driver side. They want him to roll the window down while they are pulling on the door handle repeatedly. Then officer pulls a gun. The driver is trying to unlock the door. Officer retreats from vehicle. Gunfire starts to go off it breaks out towards Dexter Reed, including some officers across the street. Other body cam video shows at least 2 other officers firing at Reed from across the street. Both these officers paused to reload. Review of the video footage. Initial reports confirm that Reed fired first, striking the officer in the arm. Preliminary investigation says stop stems from a seatbelt violation. When I first read this story, and shout out to MSN for publishing this. So this happened March the 21st in the Garfield Park neighborhood of Chicago, Illinois. When I read the story, it immediately took me back to what happened to Sean Bell in 2003 out of New York City. Similar parallels. Plainclothes officers. In his case, they heard somebody in Sean Bell's party say well, that's what they say. Heard one of them say, "Yo, get my gun." Now, the rest of that story, no, the reports were different, but they ultimately got off. They didn't fire exactly 96 shots, but they fired, I think, a little over 20, 30 shots into the car that Sean Bell was in with his friends, while one of the officers were in the hood. So my question is, first of all, when we say excessive force, this is what we mean. This is what we mean by excessive force. To go from what's supposed to be a routine traffic stop for a seatbelt violation to 96 shots in 60 seconds. And my theory is this: of course, it's going to be in the preliminary saying that Dexter Reed shot first. But where in the video does it show that? It's very possible that of the 96 shots, one of them hit the officer in the arm or the elbow. None of the officers got killed. Still 96 shots. (2024) we still have to protest this shit. Aren't you tired? And my thing is this, right? For all the, I guess, progress we made to the point that they had to put body cameras on the police officers, surely you would have released the entire thing. My question is, just like the families, why are plainclothes officers running up on this man's car like that? What kind of traffic stop is that? "96 shots in less than 60 seconds. Dexter Reed, no longer here. Like, there has to be a level of awareness on the authorities, especially when you're in plain clothes. And y'all run up to somebody's car with the guns drawn. Over a seatbelt violation? You know, when the reaction is bigger than the infraction, it makes you wonder. So Dexter Reed is no longer here. I mean, what good is the body cam footage if it's not going to lead to anything, which it probably won't? I mean, what good is the body cam footage if y'all are going to say he fired first, but it's like, where's that at? No, we've had the body cam thing for a while. At least 8 or 10 years. And not much has resulted from that. No, families paid off, sure. Cops acquitted. Cops found not guilty, mistrial, whatever. Like, damn, not even community service? Dexter Reed, man, Garfield Park, Chicago, Illinois, March of 2024. This happened. I keep seeing this stuff happen, and it's just like, damn. It just takes me back to the realization that it takes less time to be a police officer than it does a medical doctor, a surgeon. So, Mr. Fox, the I Refuse podcast. Get into the I Refuse podcast, season 5, available everywhere. Weekly episodes, wherever you get your podcast, over there. On the YouTube channel, you get up to 4 times as much content each week, depending on how much nonsense is out here. That raises a lot of questions I want to ask y'all. Follow, subscribe to the YouTube channel, to the I Refuse podcast, wherever you see your podcasts, Usual Suspects podcast, I Refuse podcast, After Dark. Follow, subscribe, and show love to the Twitter at I Refuse podcast and the Instagram at I Refuse podcast _ between the words. Before I get out of here, I just want to ask y'all a totally different question, not related to anything I've discussed on here. How many hours early do you arrive to the airport? Somebody on the Bird app said it was 3 hours, and was looking at a lot of y'all like y'all were crazy. Like, 3 hours? I was like, I personally never got that. Because I used to do that back when I was like flying less. And I was sitting in there an hour and a half looking crazy. But there was somebody in the comments that was like, see, y'all arguing against this, show up to the airport in the terminal late and be fighting with the staff. And I'm like, I think there's more to it than that. I mean, definitely a reflection that a lot of people are uncouth and don't understand that flights being canceled, flights being delayed, does not have anything to do with the people at the front desk. You have one of 2 choices. Just take it to the chin, get in touch with customer service, or end up on the no-fly list. And I'm seeing a lot of y'all, especially down at the Spirit Airlines, that do that. But that has nothing to do with whether you show up to the airport 3 hours early or you show up literally an hour early. I personally, I do it. I show up like probably 2 hours early if I'm going by myself. Because you gotta remember there are other people flying too. And there could be holdups. God forbid you are in line for the TA checkpoint and an incident happened. What you gonna do? I would much rather show up early and be at the bar that last hour at the airport instead of trying to run. I've never had an issue, but I'm way more mellow with a drink. But I just thought I'd ask y'all, do y'all show up 3 hours early? And do y'all know anybody that's on the no-fly list? This is Mr. Foxy I Refuse podcast. Again, follow, subscribe, show love. This has been another great episode of the Mixed Nuts series. Can't believe I've been doing this 13 other times. Keep it locked on the I Refuse podcast. We'll be back later on. Keep in mind that the content on YouTube for the most part, is different than what you get on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It's definitely dealer's choice. You just never know what you're going to get on either channel or either side of the I Refuse podcast. That is one of the many reasons that makes I Refuse podcast the best new podcast. Not a celebrity, not a comedian, I'm not an actor. Just a guy that does the podcasting on the side. Just another black man trying to make it. So continue to show us love like we show y'all love. We're doing this for y'all. Y'all my goddamn therapists probably don't even know it. Peace. Woo! Fendi, like the bag. This is the I Refuse podcast.